through 1970. And the same degree was specialist certified. She was a journalist and broadcast specialist and served at Fort McClellan, Alabama, Fort Benjamin Harrison in Indiana, and Fort Sheridan in Illinois, and Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. She is currently the Executive Director of the Pleasants County Community Foundation and was previously employed by Interactive Foundation in Parkersburg. She also worked for several years as a legal secretary in Parkersburg. Mary resides in Schultz with her husband, William Allen. They are the parents of 3 sons, Jeremy of Duluth, Georgia, Josh of St. Mary's, and Alan of Waverly. And they are the grandparents. She is the grandparent of 3 granddaughters, Casey and Clover Moody of St. Mary's, and Autumn Moody of Waverly. Now, I know, I can't get by without saying something about this because her picture was in the paper. And I had to look 2 or 3 times to make sure that it was really Mary's picture. She claims that when she finished basic training, that one of the requirements was that she had to weigh at least 100 pounds to get out of the basic training. So they put all the clothes on that they could find to make her way out. I think she managed to get like 101 pounds. I don't know the exact amount. Maybe she would tell us for sure. But I didn't tell her I was going to have to say something about it, but she knows me well enough to know that I couldn't let that go. So at this time, our guest speaker, Mary Bibby.
Morning.
I'd like to welcome you all, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to put all these. I'm going to try not to do that. 45 years ago, I graduated from high school, and I can type and take shorthand fairly well, but I couldn't find a job doing that. The only job I could find was in the food service. So I put on a little gray uniform with a white collar and cuffs and a white apron. And I worked at it for several months. And then I decided that if I was going to wear a uniform, I was going to wear a real one. So I joined the Army and became a member of the WAC, the Women's Army. At that time, I had a vague notion that women had been serving in the military since World War II. So I went on to Fort McClellan, Alabama, where I learned how to shine shoes, how to mop the floor, how to march, and how to make a bed for somebody whose standards were a lot more strict than my mother's. Another thing I learned was the history of women in the military, and I found out that history goes back to the Revolution. Now, if you look in your program, you'll see a number of photographs. What I thought I'd do today, rather than bore you with a bunch of statistics, is talk to you about some of the women who served. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you about a gentleman named Robert Shirtliff, who served in the Revolution. He enlisted in the 4th Massachusetts Regiment of the Continental Army in 1782. And in 1782, he was wounded. Well, rather than see a doctor, he took care of his own wounds. And he continued to wage war on the British. In 1783, he came down with pretty bad fever, and he had to seek medical attention. Well, during the examination, the doctor gave a startling discovery. Robert Shirtliff was Deborah Sampson. Now, the doctor didn't go running out of the street yelling, "It's a woman, it's a woman." He worked discreetly behind the scenes and obtained for Deborah an honorable discharge. After the war, she went around New England, giving lectures on her time in the service and wearing her uniform. She later married and had a family. She applied for a pension and was denied. So a gentleman named Paul Revere appealed to Congress, and Deborah got the princely sum of $4 a month. When Deborah passed away, her children were awarded compensation by a special act of Congress for the relief of the heirs of Deborah Sampson Gannett, a soldier of the Revolution. We're going to move ahead to the 1860s, and Mary Edwards Wall. Mary was the second woman in the United States to attend and graduate from medical school and become a doctor. And so when the Civil War broke out, she packed her bags and left her home in New York and went to Washington, D.C. And she said, "Here I am. I'm a doctor. Give me a commission, put me out in the field, and I'll tend to the sick and wounded." And the government said, "No, you can't do that. But if you want to help out, you can go to one of these camps around Washington and do the wounded there." So she did that. She took care of the wounded after the first baptismal run, for instance. And she did it at no pay as a volunteer. And then the patent office in Washington was turned into a hospital. And Mary was allowed to go there and practice medicine as a doctor. Again, at no pay. Well, in 1862, she finally got her wish. She became the assistant surgeon of the 52nd Ohio Infantry. And in 1863, she replaced the male medical officer and became the official surgeon. Mary did something just absolutely awful, just unthinkable. She wore ants. She was even taken to task for it by none other than William Constable Sherman. And she told him, "What I wear is not me." After a battle outside Chattanooga, Mary decided to stay behind and tend to the wounded, and as a result, she was captured. She was thrown in prison in Richmond, Virginia, and accused of being a spy. She stayed in prison for about 5 or 6 months until she was released in the prisoner exchange. Now, if you look at the picture of Mary in your program, you'll see she's wearing some kind of medal. That's the Congressional Medal of Honor, and Mary's the only woman to have ever received it. She was recommended for it by 2 generals, and one of those generals was William Tecumseh Sherman. I guess he discovered that what she wore really was not important. Now we're going to move ahead to 1918, Portsmouth, Ohio, where the Green family was sitting around the dinner table on Saturday night, having a meal and a conversation. And Mr. Green happens to mention that the Navy is encouraging women to enlist so that they can free up men to serve in World War I. Mr. Green had a daughter named Frida May. She was paying attention. Bright and early on Monday morning, she went down to the recruitment station and enlisted in the Navy. Her mother was furious. Frida's rank was yeoman, but because she was a woman, she was referred to as a yeomanette, which I think sounds like a piece of Penn candy. Frida was sent to Norfolk, Virginia, where her job was to check dock receipts in the freight office. And during her service, she received outstanding grades in the 3 areas in which the Navy graded women: reading proficiency, obedience, and sobriety. After the war, Frida was discharged and went home. family. Matter of fact, she outlived her husband. And there was nothing very remarkable about her service, but there's a reason why I wanted to mention her today. In 1997, I traveled to Washington to attend the dedication of the new memorial. It's called the Women in Military Service to America Memorial, and it's located at the entrance of Arlington National Cemetery. There's a picture of it on the cover of the program. And they took an existing structure and just modified it and made it, it's really a memorial and a museum. So if you ever get a chance to see it, you should. And the dedication was a big 3-day affair with luncheons and dinners and candlelight marches. We had a lot of VIPs. Loretta Swit from MASH spoke at one of the luncheons. Hillary Clinton spoke at the dedication. Sandra Day O'Connor spoke at the dedication. Kenny Rogers sang at the dedication. But the person who impressed me the most who spoke at the dedication was Freedom Mae Green-Hardy. She was 101 years old. And the photograph in your program was taken that day. The gentleman beside her is her son, a retired Navy captain. Now, how many of you people have heard of Rosa Parks? Y'all know who Rosa Parks is? Have you ever heard of W. Johnson Roundtree and Sarah Keys Evans? They are just as important as Rosa Parks. And their lives would intersect in a very meaningful way. W was from North Carolina, and when World War II broke out in the Army Service up to Hampton, she went to the recruiting office and asked for an application. She was told no. So she went to Richmond. She got her application. And she was not only accepted into the WAC, she was accepted into the very first WAC officer candidate school. She became an officer, and she became a recruiter. Excuse me. W traveled to the Southeast, speaking to colleges and high schools, trying to encourage women to enlist in the Army. And she was on a trip in Miami, Florida, wearing her uniform. She happened to be on the bus. Well, she got thrown off the bus because the driver asked her to give up her seat to a white Marine. And she refused. Then she finished out her tour of duty, and when the war was over, she went to Howard University Law School and became an attorney. And now we're going to turn to Sarah. Sarah was also from North Carolina, and she enlisted in the Army in 1951. She was stationed in Fort Dix, New Jersey. And a year after she enlisted, she was given a furlough to go home. So she put on her uniform, and she hopped on the bus. Well, she rode the bus into North Carolina, and it stopped at a town a couple of hours away from her home called Roanoke Rapids. The new driver got on. He looked around at his passengers and he saw Sarah sitting near the front of the bus in her uniform. And guess what he saw sitting near the rear of the bus? A white Marine. So he told Sarah to change places with the Marine, and she refused. Well, not only was she thrown off the bus, she was arrested. She was thrown in jail. She was in jail overnight. She had to pay a fine the next day, and she did, and she got on another bus, went the rest of the way home, had to tell her parents what happened. She was embarrassed and humiliated about it all, and she really wanted to forget it ever happened. But her friends and family encouraged her to stand up for her rights, stand up for the rights of all blacks, and particularly the blacks in uniform. And just to give you some idea of what blacks in uniform went through, during World War II, there was at least one Army base in the South where German prisoners of war were allowed to shop at the post exchange. Black American soldiers were not. So Sarah decided to follow through, and guess who she hired? Debbie Johnson. They filed suit in federal court, Evans versus the Interstate Commerce Commission. The decision came down in 1955, and what that ruling said was that if you charge a black person the same amount that you charge a white person on their interstate bus or train or whatever transportation, that black person can sit wherever there's an empty seat. Now we come to the last group of photographs, and the most difficult part of my remarks. I'm going to try to read just a little bit about each one of these women. Now I want you to look at their pictures as I read about them. Specialist Erica P. Alexson, United States Army, age 20 of Eatonton, Pennsylvania. Died July 8, 2012 in Wardak Province, Afghanistan. Specialist Crystal M. Fitz, United States Army, age 26 of Houston, Texas. Died July 17, 2012 in Kandahar, Afghanistan. Private First Class Patricia L. Horn, United States Army, age 20 of Greenwood, Mississippi. Died August 24, 2012 in Bagram, Afghanistan. Staff Sergeant Jessica M. Wing, United States Army, age 42 of Alexandria, Virginia. Died August 27, 2012 in Kuwait City, Kuwait. Chief Warrant Officer Valeria Ramirez, United States Army, age 28 of San Antonio, Texas. Died September 5, 2012 in Logar Province, Afghanistan. Sergeant Donna R. Johnson, United States Army, age 29 of Brantford, North Carolina. Died October 1st, 2012 in Khost, Afghanistan. Sergeant Camilla M. Steedley, United States Marine Corps, age 31 of San Diego, California. Died October 3rd, 2012 in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Specialist Brittany B. Gordon, United States Army, age 24 of St. Petersburg, Florida. Died October 13, 2012 in Kandahar, Afghanistan. These are the women who in 2012 gave what Abraham Lincoln called the last full measure of devotion to the country. They will never get to hear someone call them a veteran. I'm going to close by sharing some good news with you. Women who served in the military are no longer called WAFs or WAVs or Women Marines or WAFs or SPARs or yeomanettes. We have new titles. They're soldiers, sailors, airmen, and marines. And we didn't acquire those new titles simply because of the gender in which we were born. We acquired them because we owned them. Thank you. God bless our veterans. God bless our families.